Hello all, this is Mike from Marlin Financial Advisors. Today, I want to talk about emerging markets, how you invest in them, and why you shouldn't invest in them. So, to keep it basic and brief, emerging markets are economies that are up and coming and soon to be developed or developing, right? There's quite a few terms here. You can see this map, you can think Mexico, Brazil, China. China's probably the biggest one everyone talks about. Uh, and obviously that's because they have a massive economy and a massive population. So let's talk about some characteristics. Economies with higher than expected growth rates. Therefore, the emerging, right? They're going to be developing their middle class, uh, and then they can. There's a couple different types that are categorized, and there's also a blend of all these, right? There's large population centers like India and China, possibly Malaysia. And then there's more resource abundant countries like Saudi Arabia and then Russia and Brazil, just based on the absolute scale of their countries, the size of their countries. Also, Brazil has a large population too. So there's a couple different factors here. Mexico, has a decent large population, is developing, with manufacturing leaving the US. So there's a bunch of different reasons all these are developing on their own right. And they all have different issues too, right? South Africa was supposed to be 20 years ago, was supposed to be the next developing economy. And now it looks like it's going to be Nigeria instead of South Africa in the African continent. So things change. Previous success stories, if you want to think about that, was like Taiwan, South Korea, even Japan back in like the 70s and 80s. Those were considered like emerging markets. So sometimes there can be success stories and they make you a ton of money. And then sometimes there can be ones that don't do a whole lot and they don't make you a lot of money. Um, so let me talk about why I think you shouldn't invest in emerging markets. I don't think there's much point to it based on historical data. That's just really the plain and simple. Um, and let's talk about that a little bit. So here I'm going to have the U.S. stock market up against emerging markets, and we're going to see how well they've done since 1995 to now, how well each have done. So emerging markets has made about 5.3% on average per year. Let me fix that graph there. Where the US stock market has made almost 10%. Okay, you can also see the standard deviation, which is the uncertainty of returns, or the volatility of returns is higher. So that means they make less money, it's made less money, and it has more risk. So why would you do that, right? We can also look at risk as max drawdown. So worst drawdown in US history was about 51%, where it's about 63% for emerging markets. So you can tell there's more risk, no reward. Why would you do it? Plain and simply, you shouldn't. From all my knowledge and research, I just don't see it. There is one reason, I'll say, but there is one reason it could be effective, is because of this market correlation. So what this means is 75% of emerging markets return is tied directly to the US stock market, right? They're intertwined. When one goes up, the other one's going up. But 25% of the time, they're not. They don't go up the same pace. So they're kind of opposite. And you can kind of see that here where the US stock market's taking off and the emerging market doesn't do anything, and then they kind of switch, right? You can kind of see they're crossing paths a lot. When one's going up, one might not be going down or is flat or something. So there's this diversification or hedging benefit because of this number right here. So a market correlation of 0 would be the perfect thing, which means that they're completely uncorrelated and one goes up and the other one might be doing whatever it is, right? And if you can get a bunch of those together, it makes you like a perfect portfolio where you would have the smoothest ride possible because every different one is going up and down, and it's kind of making this smooth line upwards instead of this very jagged line. So that's one reason. It's just the hedging and diversification benefit in a portfolio that emerging markets can bring. Now, the problem is it hasn't made any money. That could change in the future, obviously. So it hasn't made any money. So the diversification benefit here doesn't doesn't make up for that it's made almost half as much money, right? So that's one reason. But I do want to show you something compared, and let's compare emerging markets here to international developed stocks, Great Britain, France, Germany, Japan, right? And let's look at what I think you should do instead is if you really want to go international, which I don't recommend to anyone, but you can obviously do it. There's a lot of other people that recommend it. I would recommend, or you can think about it this way, is instead of doing international, do just emerging markets. Okay, for your international exposure, just do emerging markets because there's benefits. So one, we can see it has a better growth rate, not much. It obviously has way more risk though. Okay, that's fine. But there's a diversification benefit, right? So international developed, 85% of the returns is tied to the US stock market. So you're not getting as much of a diversification benefit, but only 75% of emerging markets is. So emerging markets has a better diversification power within your portfolio. So on its own, it's bad, but when you add it into a portfolio, there can be some benefits to the total portfolio based on diversification or from hedging, whatever, lingo you want to use there. So what I would say is maybe your international piece should be completely emerging markets and not developed, especially if it's a small piece. Now, if you really want 20% or you're going 50-50 or something, US versus international, that's probably a different story. But what I would say is if you came to me and you said, hey, I want international in my portfolio, I would say, sure. Like I would say also for REITs, this is the same thing I would say for REITs is, okay, let's keep it like 5-10%. I think there could be some benefit there to having a small exposure for the diversification benefit of both REITs and then in this example, emerging markets. So I would keep 5-10% in emerging markets, not in international developed, because it doesn't seem like it provides as much benefit to the overall portfolio as maybe emerging markets does. And people will say, well, emerging markets outperformed in this period or whatever international did. But it doesn't matter because look, long run, we're looking at a lot of years here. We're looking at what, 30 years? 30 years, when you have 30 years, you have good decades and bad decades. And even the US stock market having a bad decade in 2000, it's averaging 10% because the 90s and then since 08 has been great. And we have 3 decades here, and it's starting to show that international markets don't perform as well. For whatever reason, that's maybe a topic for a different day. So that's all I wanted to show. Probably stay away from international, but if you do need it, consider having just an emerging market piece and not an developed piece, international developed piece, because I think there's maybe better. It could add a lot more benefits to your portfolio than just developed. And I do have this blog post on my website, marlinfinancialadvisors.com, if you want to take a look. It basically runs over the same things here. Actually, I want to touch on some things. Here's 3 funds you can use for emerging markets. They all do pretty much the same thing. They track the whole emerging market space. There were some slight differences, I think, between them, but not significant at all. So if you really wanted to, throw 5-10% of your portfolio into one of these self-directed account or maybe look into your 401k and what options they have there. But there you go. That's what I've thought about it. Take care.